Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our fourth edition of K-Talk, our monthly live show with all the exciting topics of the coming trade show K in the German city of Düsseldorf. Long before the exhibitors built up their booth on the show floor in October, the topics and technologies are being prepared. That's fine for us, so we can discuss about them already now. The title of today's edition is Plastics Meet Electronics, Circularity at its best, and my guests are true experts in this sector. Here we go. Welcome, Dr. Niklas Meine, responsible for marketing, electrical and electronics for the EMEA region at Covestro Deutschland. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Guido. A warm welcome to everyone.
Next is Weinand Diemer, Senior Director of Product Management AC Charging at company EVBox. Welcome, Weinand.
Thank you, Guido. Glad to be here and welcome all.
And number 3 is Gino Joseph, Vice President of the German Indian Plastics and Polymers Association and Editor-in-Chief of India's most important publication for the plastics sector. Thanks for joining, Gino, and welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Guido Marshall, for your warm words.
Before we start with our discussion, I'd like to invite you, dear viewers, to participate and send your questions and remarks to us here in the studio. I will pass them on to my guests and we will try to answer them during the show. So don't hesitate. The more you participate, the more fun we all have. So let's start. My first question goes to you, Niklas. How important are plastics for the electronic industries?
Yeah, plastics are absolutely essential for the electronics industry. And this you can also see if you look to the different applications. So you find plastics, for instance, in cables, you find them in all the different network devices, in telecommunication, from your smartphone to your computer. And plastics are there for good use because essentially you need specific properties, and these are fantastic materials to use them in electronics.
All right, so Weinand, in your company EVBox, which is one of the world-leading manufacturers of charging stations for e-mobility, you are applying and using a lot of different materials, amongst them also plastics. What are the characteristics of this material that you are focusing on?
Yeah, Guido, great question. In the charging of electric vehicles, what we work on as EVBox, basically what we are looking for are really aspects which make the product durable for outdoor use. So, for example, impact rating, ingress protection, weatherability, with a focus, for example, on UV stability of the products, are really important aspects for us in our products, especially because the bulk of the, let's say, the exterior design of EV charging stations, especially for residential and light commercial applications, are made out of plastics.
And I'm so glad you are joining in our today's show because you are not only a heavy user of plastic materials and electronic materials in your products, but you are also representing a company which is known for its sustainability efforts. So I think during the show we will have a word on that as well. But first I would go and pass the word to Gino, to Mumbai, India, because you can give us an overview of how the Indian electronics industry is making use of plastics at the moment.
Plastic industry in India is growing much bigger. If you look into the consumer electronic market size of India is around 72 billion in 2021. And it is going to expand maybe 6.5% compounding growth. So plastic is very much essential for all electronic products in India. And India is importing a lot of raw material for this. And I'm sure it is going to grow in a bigger way. Without plastics, there is no electronic products.
Yes, and Niklas, maybe we can come up with at a starting point to see what kind of materials are we talking about before we later on pass on to the new materials, to the biomaterials and the recycled materials. But first of all, let's talk about the status quo. What are the main materials being used in the electronics sector?
In the electronics sector, in principle, you find a variety of different plastics, but especially engineering plastics play here a role. So you have, for instance, ABS for many applications, but also like polyamide, TPUs, and I'm representing Covestro's business entity of engineering plastics, and we especially have polycarbonates and polycarbonate ABS blends, or different type of polycarbonate blends in our offer. And these blends are really important for a lot of electronics products. So the main materials which are really important and bring innovation to the electronic industry are engineering plastics.
All right, Weinand, in the past, plastics in different industries have been judged as, let's say, kind of cheap material. It was easy and cheap to produce, to manufacture, but in the meantime, those materials have developed a lot because of their special characteristics, like insulation, we heard that already, heat and electric insulation, like lightweight characteristics. Today, if you compare, for example, the different materials you are using for your products, what importance does plastics have?
Well, to be honest, I think it's one of the critical components in our products. Of course, we make electric vehicle charging stations, so the electronics form the heart, let's say. But the outer body of the product is often constituted of plastics, which, well, does not make them the most impactful component in our bill of material from a cost point of view, but from a volume point of view, and from the part of the, let's say, the interaction we provide with the customer. They're a really important aspect. And maybe to get back to Nicholas' remark, our focus is really on the application of the engineering plastics grade. So not really the super bulk commodity grades, but really on the higher end engineering plastics, because they really have a great fit with our product and our application.
Mm-hmm. All right. Gino, in the last month, or we can say already 2 years now, industries all around the globe are suffering from supply difficulties. The scarceness of materials is a major problem for many different industries. How would you judge that for India, or maybe for Asia, to have a wider scope? How much is the scarceness of plastic materials affecting the industries in your country and around there?
For India, India is importing almost all the engineering material. Like you name the material, most of the engineering plastics are imported, and the shortage of the product, shortage of the raw material is giving a lot of price difference and a tough time for the electronic and Indian plastic industry. And it is the time we have a current price which is going up and down. The price volatility make it is difficult for the industry to run on a smoother way.
And Weinand, are you suffering from those logistic problems or with supply problems? And does that have an impact on the quantity of products you are producing in your plants?
Well, to be honest, I think we have the same challenge as all our competitors. And speaking for e-mobility industry in general, we are facing a large challenge in scaling up production volumes. And we do see that global supply chains currently are still, to some extent, getting better, but still disrupted, which puts limits to growth. Yes, so we still expect that this year at least to face the consequences of that.
Covestro is one of the world's most important suppliers for materials. But I wouldn't say, Niklas, you are the bad guy in this round, because you hold the key to solutions for the future. So maybe have some words or explain a little bit how the actual situation is in terms of supply capacities. Are we seeing better times ahead?
So I hope so. So at the moment, I believe first we have the COVID-19 situation for now about 2 years. Now we also see that in some countries, like in China, for instance, there is again a lockdown. We have a political situation which is not in favor of a stable supply. But I think if we're looking more on a mid and long term, plastics are from the raw material basis and from a supply basis quite well equipped, and also the move from fossil resources to more renewable resources is going on. There are many developments in terms of recycling and using more also local feedstock supply chains. So I think in the mid to long term, we should not worry too much. At the moment, of course, there are some shortages.
Yeah, and you gave a hint on the topic of fossil based materials. We see a tendency of switching to new materials which are more or less independent from fossil sources. Wijnand, I guess that in terms of sustainability plans and aims of your company in the future, you are stressing your laboratories in this term as well, right? You're working on new materials, I guess?
Yeah, without sharing too much of the details, indeed, we from a sustainability point of view, if you want to talk the talk, I always say you also need to walk the walk, right? So we're in the sustainability business, and one of our main goals is also to improve the sustainable footprint of our products, meaning, for example, CO2 reduction content of our products. To that extent, maybe nice reference is that we got a silver award from EcoVadis, which is global scan for environmental footprint of your company and products. That also relates to our company's vision. So yes, this is something we are heavily working on for the upcoming generation of our products.
Okay, and now we are already in the middle of the circularity and sustainability discussion. I would like to ask you, Gino, how important is that circularity aspect and the recyclability aspect for the industry in your country? And maybe part two of the question, how do you see the different international markets in comparison? Where are the leading actors in the moment in terms of sustainability and plastics?
Previously, nobody was focusing on sustainability and circularity, but after our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, came in and had a lot of campaigns on Clean India and circularity. It is given so much of importance. Previously, we were not focusing on that. India is now focusing on recycling, upcycling, and putting everything into the circular economy. Not only not only normal commodity plastics, also people are focusing on engineering plastics. And I came across many electronic recyclers in India too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and maybe part two of my question, how do you see the international markets in comparison? Where do you see the most intense efforts to come to a certain circularity in the plastic sector, in the electronics and plastic sector? comparing, for example, the Americas, Europe, Asia?
When you talk about circular economy and circularity, I think Europe and America is doing very good. Asia is started looking into the circular economy and recycling, but as of now, India is focusing more on circular economy. You can see many developments happened in past 2 years or last 5 years.
Okay, Niklas, maybe we have a look on the European, maybe the German efforts in regards to circularity, and we have seen a tendency in the market already since years now, but until the recent 2-3 years there were a lot of talks going on, but not so much activities. And even the actors within the plastics industry admitted that the efforts haven't been sufficient so far. So there's a lot of activity now, especially in preparation for the upcoming K. What is your feeling? Is the circularity effort that the industry is doing sufficient already, or do you wish for more activity?
Of course, I wish for more activity, but if you make a comparison to maybe the last 10 to 20 years and today, there is really a huge change. We have the European Green Deal, and there is also a circular economy plan. Today, the Plastics Europe industry, they also published a report on circular economy. And here you see really a lot of changes. So if we look into the challenges also related to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, there you need a lot of plastics in different solutions, for instance, for a secure and renewable power supply, e-mobility to make the change here, communication. And for all these purposes, step by step, the plastics industry also delivered solutions which are meeting the requirements. And these are different. First, looking to the field of reducing, maybe. So in reducing, here the aim is also having materials which have a low CO2 footprint, and in comparison to metals, for instance, plastics, especially also engineering plastics, they need much less energy to be produced. So here there are a lot of activities, and also Covestro started to source green electricity for the manufacturing process. This is very important. And also to further reduce CO2 emissions, we are looking for replacement of fossil resources with recyclate, or also with renewable feedstocks, like, for instance, bio-waste. And here there were also huge differences. So the increase of recycled materials really went up. This is still for mechanical recycling. In Europe, I would say at the beginning, but you see strong improvements and also growth rates over the last years. There are also now from Covestro, for instance, climate neutral polycarbonates on the market. This is also something very new. These are materials made in principle via a mass balance approach. You are replacing fossil resources in the very beginning with renewable resources to have polycarbonates with a very low CO2 footprint and made of renewable resources. And the third field where you see also a lot of developments also in Europe is the field of reuse or design for sustainability. That means that the electronics industry are starting to manufacture products in a way that you can easily separate the different material streams and bring them back to recycling. One example for this is also a Dutch company, Fairphone, for instance, who made a Fairphone where a lot of the parts are repairable. And you can then also easily reuse the different parts. And also the Fairphone as such has recycled TPU, thermoplastic polyurethane, for the casing, for example, or also the frame, and some other components like the charger are made of recycled material. So you see a lot of developments, but I would say it's still at the beginning.
Wijnand, how high is the level of or the percentage of recycled materials in your material footprint? Can you Can you use recycled material already to the extent you wished for, or are you still waiting for the suppliers to feed more into this funnel?
Well, to be honest, the amount of recycled content today is very low, and I think that is something we need to work on. The reason why this is low today is because we're facing products which need to meet international certification schemes, and due to the requirements on the materials used, on the plastics used, for example, we need to use virgin material. That is why we're looking at newer materials, climate neutral materials, from a recycled origin, thus allowing us to make a product on a virgin level, for example, according to the USUL regulations. We can use virgin material, but that virgin material already contains renewable content. So we meet all the applicable regulations and are, in the meantime, able to reduce our carbon footprint of our products. And that is an exciting step which we're working on introducing this year.
Gino, there are different prerequisites that a material needs to fulfill depending on the industry it is being supplied to. Like, for example, in the medical sector, there are other norms and requirements towards the material. In the food segment, there are even other requirements. How about the electronics sector? How severe are the characteristics that have to be fulfilled by the material, and how possible is it to use recycled material for these applications?
When you talk about recycled material in electronics, I think this is just a start using recycled material in electronics. But if you look into other industries, like in India, automotive industry is made compulsory, maybe 20% recycled material, but there is no norms for electronics manufacturers in India for using recycled material. And I think soon or later, everybody will have to use maybe some percentage of 20-30% of recycled material, or much more higher quantity of recycled material, maybe 30-40% up to improve the circularity globally.
Okay. When I'm reflecting on last K in 2019, I remember that the topic of circular economy was already present. It was there. It was not the overall top topic, but it was there, right? But I had the impression that we were still talking about laboratory scale figures. That means there were some smaller examples of maybe coffee cups or park bench or something made of recycled materials, but not really to an extent that we can really see a trend, a worldwide trend. For the upcoming K, I think things have changed, right? I think that many companies are preparing heavily to display and show serial production parts from recycled materials. Do you share this opinion, Nicholas?
Absolutely. So I can speak also here for Covestro. We as a company, we have the target to become fully circular in the future, and this doing step by step. And also we want to be climate neutral by 2035, which is not so long ahead. And here we are working on a lot of different approaches. For instance, on the last K, we have been showing, I can maybe show this also here in the camera, on products for the electronics industry, like such notebook covers, which are made up to 30% of post-consumer recyclate. And there are also many other electronics products, for instance, also for copiers and printers, which are used today in the electronics industry in commercial use, with 30 to up to 75% post-consumer recyclate. And I think this is really a great step. And as Weinert mentioned, depending on the application, you need really to look to the specific requirements. If you look to the global standards of the EV charging industry, for instance, here 5VA, a flammability requirement, is essential if you would like to also go to the US market, and F1 listing of the material, so UV and weathering resistance. And in this purpose, we developed a material which is called Macrolon RE, which is identical to today's Macrolon, so our polycarbonate, but it has an extremely low CO2 footprint, and it uses, instead of fossil resources like crude oil, renewable resources. And here, even bio-waste can be used. And this is really a huge step forward, I would say.
In the consumer segment, there are many big brand owners who have found out that consumers do really like the idea of using recycled materials. Like, for example, in the food segment, in packaging and so on, there are already many hints and information that this packaging, for example, that this bottle is made of recyclates, and this is something trustworthy. Do you see, Weinand, do you see a similar trend in the industry, for example, in your case, as a producer of charging stations? Can you make use of the positive image of recycled materials? And do you do that already now?
Yes, I think you can definitely make use of that. One good example there is that we often see on the side of our customers that that they're asking for products with a lower environmental impact, be it large consumers via tenders, but also in the end user interviews we do with our customers, we see that they deem the product being more sustainable or containing recycled components as being a positive aspect. Of course, they expect the same performance and the same product lifetime, etc. That is of course licensed to operate. But if you can offer that with a product which has a better sustainable footprint, then that's definitely a factor for consideration for the consumer market.
Gino, I learned from experts that the prerequisite to come to a true circular economy is not only the willingness of the different actors in the markets to cooperate, but the foundation lies in the design of the products. I learned that this is truly important to design the products to enable recyclability. Do you see a willingness in your market, a willingness of the companies to design the products differently in order to allow for recyclability, or is that something not yet in the mindset of the companies?
India is changing a lot, and Indian designing market, like I was attending the Dymol show today, and there I could able to see that everybody is talking about, the designing should be compatible for recycling and circular economy. So the sound is already started in the industry, saying that we should even start from the designing to the finished product. It should be focusing more with the circular economy and recyclability.
Niklas, are your customers preparing themselves already for this design for recycling? Does their effort go hand in hand with your efforts on the material side, or are you still wishing for more flexibility of your customers to adapt to this circular or this circularity idea?
Mm-hmm. So looking to what our customers are doing, I believe the trends go to, on the one side, reducing CO2 emissions and also using more alternative raw materials, alternative plastics, so made of recyclate and renewable feedstocks like biomass. But the topic of design for sustainability, depending on the company, but this, I would say, as a trend, is something what is more in the beginning. And here we see some positive examples also by some startups. For instance, MiniWiz from Taiwan. They have been using old CDs, DVDs to bring them back to sunglasses. So I think this is one of the great things with polycarbonate. It's a thermoplastic material, and you can, after using it for one application, reuse it again. And here, especially the modular design plays an important role. And beside this, there are also some new topics where you look for using the diverse property profile of, for instance, polycarbonates to make mono-material solutions which are easier recyclable. So here we developed also together with some partners examples where you can use, for instance, thermal conductive polycarbonates, which you can, in a 2K molding, combine with a housing system, which could also be a thermal conductive polycarbonate, and in this way replace, for instance, metals. These are some new solutions which could be used then in various applications. There are already commercial examples, for instance, in the lighting industry, which is very innovative, but also more and more other applications like for battery management, and also in network devices, routers are upcoming.
I guess that these efforts to come to new materials, to develop new strategies, these efforts do result in higher prices. I cannot imagine avoiding that. So the question is, Weinand, would companies like yours, like EVBox, be willing to pay more for a recycled material, or is it simply not feasible to introduce these new materials at a higher price, which maybe at the end of the day cannot be passed on to your final customer?
Good question. The passing on to the customer is indeed often a challenging topic. However, we see room for covering for those additional costs in our products, because at the end of the day, your product becomes more relevant and you can increase your scale of production. So we don't see that, at least not in electric vehicle charging and the e-mobility industry. We don't see that as a big blocker today. Also, let's say the share of cost presented by the plastics used in such a product is not the bulk, right? The electronics constitute most of the cost, together with things like assembly and other manufacturing parameters. So yes, we see good room to apply higher cost materials if they're from recycled grade, and of course, in time we hope that they get on par or even lower than the current engineering plastics.
Gino, how about India? Is price a critical, or will price be a critical aspect in the competition, or might that change as well in the future when it comes to more circularity in the plastic segment?
As of now, some manufacturers are ready to buy expensive recycled material, but most of them are reluctant to, pay more money for the recycled material. I think in the coming days, once people understand the circularity and the importance of the environment, I'm sure people are going to change, and everyone will buy the recycled material and use more recycled material to improve our system.
Okay. Before I place the next question to my talk guest, I would like to invite you, dear viewers, to also participate and write your questions and remarks into our chat function. You see this little window? beside the video. There you can introduce your questions and your remarks. I will see them here in the studio, and I will directly pass them on to my viewers, because this is live today. It's not an on-demand thing. It is truly live, and you can experience that right away. So just put your questions in the chat, and I will pass them on. Okay, so before I read those remarks from our viewers, my final question round goes to you, gentlemen. If you would have a crystal ball to look into the future, what would be your wish? How would the plastic material for the electronics segment need to develop to make you happy? What are you wishing for, Nicholas? To start with you, what is your expectation for plastics in the electronics segment?
So I believe what we absolutely need is a strong collaboration with also new partners along the value chain, because if we move away from a linear economy to a circular one, there will be many different changes. These changes, I think, we can tackle from the material side quite well already today, but what will be essential is also establishing, selecting, sorting, and also collecting opportunities for products where we can have them the required material streams. So it's a lot about collaboration, integrating new partners to the value chain, and then transforming the industry to become circular. This is a huge task, but I think it will also make a lot of fun.
Gino, what is your expectation? What is your crystal ball for the future of plastics in the electronic segment?
It should be, using, reusing as much as possible, and the raw material should be strong enough to handle, the breakage. Normally what I saw is the electronic devices breakage is more happening because of maybe the strength of the plastics, but we can improve the quality of plastics and technology to adopt the globally. We can go in a bigger way by using good material for manufacturing it along with the recycled material.
Okay, but let's dig a little bit deeper. I want to have some more precise idea. Well, it doesn't cost anything. You can wish for things that you might see necessary for the future. Go ahead, come, tell us what you would wish in the next years.
In the coming years, I think the raw material manufacturer should focus on more circularity material and making more material which is environmental friendly, so that we can protect our mother earth in a better way. And also using the recycled material more into, not only into electronics. If you talk about maybe when you talk about electronics, we may be talking only about mobile phones, but even into the other electronics like computer parts or computer covers, which is in color in black, which we can use more recycled material and save mother earth in a bigger way.
Okay, Weinand, now comes your crystal ball. You have a free wish. So let's let's talk about the future.
Yeah, for me, if the way I look at it, and this is maybe a little bit of a bold statement to make, but the most sustainable product is a product which is not manufactured. I mean, adding additional products to this world, if it's necessary, yes, but if it's not necessary, no. So from my perspective, extending product life. So if you look at consumer product, not discarding them after 3 years, but for example, something we are focusing on, extending product life to, for example, 8 or 10 years of commercial use, is already a step we're working on, which has a huge impact. And then making sure that those products are properly refurbishable, or maybe at some point in time remanufacturable into new product. That I think that is really a great contribution we can deliver, together with the right materials to support that practice, because that means you just put more stringent requirements on the materials you use, and that may not be feasible on the materials we use today, but 5 or 10 years down the line, that can be a very feasible scenario to increase the sustainability, at least in our industry.
Yeah, and this goes along with a question that comes in from one of our viewers, and it says, how to deal with the scalability of recycled plastics. If demand is rising, the plastic waste from which it's created maybe can't keep up with the demand of the customers. Right, Niklas?
Yeah, I think that's right, and was also going a little bit in the direction where I was starting with about collaboration. So here, for instance, we are working together with a water bottle manufacturer. They are called Nongfu Springs. And after using many times the water bottles, and at a certain point, after quite a long time, the water bottles are sorted out. They're made out of polycarbonate, brought to a recycling company, which are called Ausil. And there they are cleaned up, brought then to Covestro to make new type of polycarbonate resins out of it. And here, I think for the future, what will become more important to react on the demand of recycled materials, that we are establishing further take-back programs, and also closing the loop in principle for everything what is not repairable, that we recycle it in a proper way. And this needs to be built up. And here partnering is absolutely essential.
Great, and here comes another question, which is obviously heading into the direction of the international comparability of the future of circularity circular economy. It says, in the collection, sorting and disassembly, is there not a disconnect from various regions in the world? And that this is the real issue, as infrastructure in Europe versus, say, South America is different, and that it really may be a social issue? I think that is a proper question, which might be replied by you, Gino.
Yeah. When you talk about the comparison of getting the material, collection is very important in this, because collection and sorting, because when you collect it in a better way, it can be recycled in very easy and better way. Yeah, as you said, compared to Europe and to South America, there is a lot of difference, because the system is totally different. Europe, you have a very good collection system, and it goes to proper recycling. If you look into South America, it is much different. The collection system need to be improved. If you look into India, India is also need a better collection system to improve the circularity. And on the long way, I think things will be improved, and the collection system will improve to get all the material into the right sorting system and right recyclability and circular economy.
All right, gentlemen, we have come to the end of our today's K-Talk. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for participating, and all the best. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining today. If you want to watch our K-Talk again or share it with your friends and colleagues, just have a look at our landing page, where we will shortly place the video on demand. You will find all our previous shows there as well. If you want, we will meet again next month in our 5th edition on May 17th. We will discuss about plastic trends in the chemical market, so don't miss it. Thanks again for watching. Stay healthy, and bye-bye.